What's up, guys? I'm back. This is Dexter.
What up? Boop.
He has a big blue thing on his neck so he doesn't chew his butt because he's been scratchy lately. Anyway, if I'm dressed like this, you know it's going to be a fun day. And it is 25 degrees outside, so check this out. Got the shovel ready, got the snow brush ready. Let's see here. Gotta do one of these. Click, 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 and hold. Oh yeah. I like how it's parked in the only little piece of sun that the driveway gets at this time of day. Yeah, so today's video is going to be about transmission service, the tranny fluid and the transfer case fluid. So let me get in here. I love this remote start thing. It's so good. It turns on. This is an A-Spec Advanced, by the way, so it has the remote start on the dongle. This thing turns on the heat, the heated seats, the heated steering wheel. And in the summertime, when the car is really hot, it turns on the air conditioning and the seat coolers. I always get off topic anyhow. Deactivate auto start, brake pedal, start button. As you can see, these guys are already on. For 5 seconds of being on, the steering wheel is nice and warm. Anyhow, let's see, let's wait for this thing to load. I just did my whatchamacallit, zip it. It links to CarPlay right away. Zip it. I don't know if this is going to be able to pick up the screen or if it's going to be flickering like that. I never really filmed this before. Let's see here. Settings, vehicle, maintenance information, and as you can see, if you scroll down this little wheel here, where is it? Yeah, that's tire pressure. It's really hard to look at two places at once. Alright, so I just did my oil change. That's why it says my oil life is at 90. And my next upcoming maintenance is B13. B is oil change, 1 is tire rotation, and 3 is the transmission fluid and rear differential fluid. If you look at it on this screen, it doesn't really tell you that. It just says tire rotation and transmission fluid. It also implies that you should know that there's a transfer case fluid in there, but that's in the owner's manual in the maintenance journal. It tells you what to do. So anyhow, my car has 45,000 miles on it and change, and this is the first time I'm getting the service interval number 3, which quite frankly is a little concerning. I already did my rear differential fluid change 2 times, once at about 10,000 and once at about 30 something thousand, which it came up on the maintenance minder, and that's fine. You should probably do it every 15,000 miles or so. The transmission fluid, generally you want to do every 30,000 miles, and I was being optimistic, you know, thinking that the car knows what it's doing and knows what it's telling me, and you know that I'll just follow the maintenance minder. But now that I see it took 45,000 miles for the maintenance minder to tell me that I need to do my transmission fluid, I'm a little worried, and I'm a little upset with myself that I let it go on for this long. I'm gonna give it the benefit of the doubt because, you know, Honda knows what they're doing, and you know, chances are it's absolutely fine. I'm gonna go an extra step and use a paint strainer when I drain the fluids to see if there's any like metal shards or particles or anything coming out of either fluid. I'm hoping everything's going to be fine and they're going to be a little, you know, on the dirty side. I'm also going to be changing the filter that's on the transmission warmer, not cooler. It's a warmer, regardless of what you may have seen in other videos on YouTube. I'm gonna try to make this video a little more legit than the other ones, because when I was trying to figure out how to change these fluids, there's maybe 2 or 3 videos on this topic on this car on YouTube right now, and all of them are kind of hit and miss. So I'll give you the part numbers, I'll give you the torque specs to all the drain bolts and the fill bolts and the level bolt and all that stuff. The only downside is it's well, it was 25 this morning. Right now it says it's 39 degrees outside, but my garage is not heated, so I think I'm going to take off this jacket and put on some extra layers and pray for the best. So let me swap my cars around. I'll get the race car out of the garage and put this thing up on jack stands and everything, and get ready to go. One of my little favorite buttons right here is this first one. If you program it correctly, boop, the garage opens. Let's get this little monster out of here. This is always a fun time. That's right. Sorry, little guy. Not your turn to get worked on today. Not your turn. It's the big brother's turn. By the way, my next video, this is a stage 2 turbo right here. There's a big intercooler over here. We're going to be doing a nice turbo upgrade, a whole bunch of other parts down here, inlet pipe. Stay tuned for that one. Yeah. So let's get this little guy out of here and pray that the RDX fits in this tiny ass garage. I cleared up space, I rearranged my toolbox and stuff. I used to have the toolbox over here and the table over here and whatnot. So now I have a little more walk room right here. Hopefully I can get the car all jacked up and ready to work on. Whew, that was a workout. Moment of truth. I got the car up on these ramps. There is so little room to work with here. So little room. Look at this. Let's see if this door closes. I took my coat off. I'm not even cold anymore. The garage smells like exhaust fumes. So I'm a little bit high right now. I just killed the car. I'm gonna wait for it to air out a little bit and then close the garage, so maybe I can get some of the heat from the motor to warm up the garage. Take a note that this procedure should be done on a hot engine. So you're gonna drain your transmission fluid and your transfer case fluid on a hot engine. Keep it at operating temperature. So you could do this like after you come back from a long drive or whatever, or if your car is cold, you can just wait for the, set it up where it needs to be to work on, and you can wait for your cooling fans to kick in 2 times, and that's how you'll know that the car is at operating temperature and ready to work on. Anyhow, you're going to want to drain the fluids while hot. It's going to take you X amount of time to do the procedure. And then when you fill the fluids and this and that, you're gonna loosely tighten up the bolts. Well, not loosely, you should tighten them up with old crush washers, preferably, so you don't waste new ones. You're gonna get the car to operating temperature again and then check the fluid levels. And at that point, you can replace the crush washers on the check bolts. So let's see how this goes. This took quite a couple of tries to get it just in the right spot, because the garage is only big enough to barely fit the car and close. And I'm hoping I don't regret this nice little spoiler, because I mean it clears this rail right here, but will it clear these little hinges? And we're going to carefully check. So what I did was there's not much room for jack activities in this garage. I'm hoping that these ramps will give me enough clearance to crawl under the car. I know for sure I'm going to be pretty uncomfortable. And you want your car level. Now, I am still on the pump jack, and I loosely put the car up on the jack stands. I don't have the full weight of the car on these because it's going to crush my tiles. But anyhow, if the jack fails, whatever, I'll lose a couple of tiles, but I'll still be alive. So I have 2 jack stands in the back, as level as possible. So what I did was I took a tape measure while the car was parked in the driveway. I took a tape measure from the middle of the fender to the ground on all 4 corners, and I made sure that the new height is pretty much the same while raised. Well, not the same, but raised the same amount. So the car is level, because these level fluids have to be done at flat level. I think I breathe too much vapors because I can't find the right words to say. Okay, so moment of truth. Let's try to close this thing up. Oh my goodness, oh my goodness. Okay, all right. I want to keep my finger on this thing in case I see something bad about to happen. Oh, that's perfect. Wow, I could have actually went about 2 or 3 inches more back. That is absolutely perfect. Unfortunately, I have a door here, so I'm not trapped in the garage. But yeah, I could have went a few more inches back, and that would have given me a few more inches here to work with. So now, let's go over these fluids. I don't mind this, it's junk. Dual pump 2, Honda brand, Acura brand all-wheel drive fluid. These are the same exact fluid. You probably bumped into this controversy, but I'll go over it again. Sometimes Honda doesn't have the Honda fluid, so they'll sell you an Acura one. Sometimes Acura doesn't have their own fluid, so they'll sell you a Honda one. These are myth busted. It's the same thing because this part number is identical. 8200907. A2009007 with an A for Acura, so they could charge you a couple of extra bucks because you have a luxury car. This goes into the rear differential. We will not be doing this today because this was already done. This is the fluid you need for your transfer case. Hypoid gear oil GL5 75W85. I got a couple of bottles. You should probably only need 1. Depending on how much comes out. I think it takes less than 1 quart. Transmission fluid, ATF 2.0. You will need about 5 of these guys. And you can also mix and match ATF 2.0, Honda brand, Acura brand. So, like I said, I went to get the fluid. They only had 1 of these guys, and then the rest they gave me these. Acura dealership. Same stuff. Antifreeze, this was from my Civic. Let's put this back where it goes. I'm all out of order here now. All-wheel drive fluid, okay. You will also need this filter. Now, this is controversial. This goes into what people call the transmission cooler. It's not a cooler, it's a warmer, and we will get to that. When you take your car for service at Acura, this is the part number, they do not replace this filter as standard maintenance. They replace this for other big events, assuming your car has regular maintenance. They replace this only in the event of, like, say, your torque converter goes bad, or they're doing a transmission change or a transmission rebuild. They replace this filter. I think it should be replaced anyhow, being that this car has not had a transmission flush in 45,000 miles. You will need this filter as a safety measure. So there's the part number, and here's the part number for the O-ring that goes right there. You will also need this. There's the part number. The transmission warmer also has 2 O-rings of its own. I believe I have them here. Here we go. When you take the warmer off, the assembly has 2 O-rings of its own. There's a little tiny one and there's a big one. So here are the part numbers.
There you go for the big one. You could pause the video, write these down. And here's the little one. There you go. Okay, so you got your O-rings, you got your filter, you have all your fluids. You will also need crush washers. And fortunately for me, I have a plethora to choose from in every size. So these are the small ones. This is the same thing. Here are the medium ones. And here are the large ones. So I forget what goes where. The small ones, I think they're like 14 millimeter or something, and these are like 16 and these are 17. I forget the exact sizes, but I will give you the part number for these guys also. They're like $1 a piece. So this is like thousands of dollars worth of crush washers. I got hooked up by a friend of mine that works at Acura. Oops, video got cut off. Okay, so little guys are usually for oil change bolt and maybe another bolt somewhere else. These are for the transmission and the rear diff. The big one is the transmission fill bolt, the rear differential fill bolt. The medium one is the drain bolt. And then the transfer case and transmission itself, we're yet to find out which one goes where. But just know that I have a bunch of them, so I'm worry-free, and you guys should be too. Now, let's see how I'm gonna do this job, let alone film it. Make sure you got your gloves. I gotta gather my thoughts, so hang tight. BRB. Guys, oh my god. All right, so between clips I tried to crawl under here and assess the situation. This is very difficult to get under there and be comfortable when the car is on ramps. This needs to be at least like 2 or 3 of these more off the ground. I'm gonna try and see what I could do, but wow. Okay. Oh, also, other things you're gonna need that I forgot. One of these little pumps. You can get these, I got this at AutoZone or whatever you have next to you, Pep Boys or Advanced Auto, whatever it's called. Even Amazon has them. These guys are great. You attach them right to the bottle. This one has both sizes, the small and the big, for these guys and these guys. I don't know if they did that accidentally or on purpose, but it should be magnificent. This will help fill in the fluids from below the car because you just put this guy into the bottle and start pumping, and the fluid will go through the straw and up into where it needs to go. And also, these were the paint strainers I was talking about. So you know, once you crack the drain bolt, let the fluid pour into your drain pan through this little guy, and whatever, there's like a super fine mesh here. So if there's any metal or shards or anything in the fluid, it'll get trapped in there, and you'll know if you're in trouble or not. In the meantime, this is gonna suck. I don't know if I should try to struggle with this or figure something else out. I don't have much room to lift this any higher because this garage is tiny, but you got to work with what you have, right? All right, I'll show you guys where all the fill and bolts are and the drain bolts. We're gonna need to take this intake off. There's an easier way to fill the transmission, which is through a little breather hole that's right there somewhere. I'm sure you guys may have seen that in another video. So we're gonna do that, being that we're already in a tight little jam here. This flashlight. All right, I'm gonna get under here. So I'm 6'4", and contorting myself in these weird positions is definitely not fun. So, all right. So starting from the middle of the car, I know some of these videos show you, here's the bolt, here's the bolt, here's the bolt, and you're like, where? I don't know where it is because they don't give you any orientation. So let's start from the license plate and work our way under the car. If you go right here towards the oil pan, this is your engine oil bolt right there, as some of us may already know. If you go directly this way, this is your transmission drain bolt. And if you go on this side of the exhaust pipe, that is this guy right here.
right there is your transfer case drain bolt. Now, they don't tell you about this part in all the videos. This big plastic piece has to get taken off because there's no way you can reach these up here on this side. You're gonna find, let me see if I can get my GoPro in there. I can't see what I'm filming, but anyhow, there's two bolts right here. One of them is the fill bolt for the transmission, and the smaller one is the level bolt for the transmission. I don't know if this is going to show on camera or not, but they are in front of the transmission. You cannot get to them unless you take this whole clump of plastic off, and this plastic goes all the way around that way, and there's a lot of clips here, not to mention it tucks under the bumper. So this alone is just an annoying POS. Not looking forward to taking that off. I already took off these two metal plates. I didn't film that because I didn't think it was necessary. One goes here, one goes here. If you've ever changed your oil, you know that you have to take them off with a big screwdriver, and it doesn't need to be on video, so whatever. The only bolt left, if I can crawl under here, oh my god, so this is how much room I have. I'm already shoulder to shoulder under this car. So anyhow, like I said, transfer case drain bolt. The transfer case fill plug is extremely annoying. I set up a light over here, sorry if it's blinding you, but let's work our way around. Keep going. Sorry, I'm just crawling under this car. Here's the diff. So if you get back here, you can see there's the front of the car, there's my feet. If you follow back, there is your fill plug right there. Can you see it? I can't even get my hand in there to point to it. My flashlight. That right there. The shiny little plug right there is your transfer case fill plug. And it's also how you check the level. So once you start squirting in the fluid with that little pump I showed you, as soon as it starts pouring out, that's how you know your transfer case is full. Same applies to the transmission, and that's why the car has to be level on all four corners when you're doing this job. With that said, let me turn off this video and try to crawl the hell out of here, or maybe just lay here for a half an hour and contemplate why the hell I'm doing this. Guys, I have a race car. I don't know why I'm doing this to my daily. Well, I'm lying. I do know why I'm doing this. It's so it doesn't break down on me. My lease ends in a couple of months, and the reason I'm doing this all by myself is because I plan on buying the car, and if I'm buying it, it will remain untouched by anyone other than myself. That's the way you know if anything goes wrong, it's my fault. Alrighty, I'm out of here. Hold please while I situate the next video. Alrighty, just for some action over here, I cracked the drain for the transmission, and here's the strainer. So I didn't take the bolt all the way off, just so we could see what's going on there. But let's try to catch some fluid here. It looks pretty clean from what I could see. So this is basically what you're going to want to do. Just run it through here, and then you can check for metal particles. I'm drop my GoPro into my oil canister. Let me try to take this guy. Oh my god. Ooh, okay. Hey, look at that. I caught my bolt inside the strainer. See if I can
crap comes out of here. So right now I have my GoPro propped up inside of the handle of the oil container of this thing. Fits perfectly into the little hole of the handle. So from what I can tell, there's nothing in here. I'm not sure if I'll find anything bad. I hope not. I'm going to check the magnet on the drain bolt after this finishes draining. So from what I hear, when you drain the transmission, not all of the fluid comes out just because of how intricate the insides of the casing are. Some people like to go overboard and do it like 2 or 3 times in a row just to kind of flush it. I don't think it's necessary. I think as long as you're getting fresh fluid in there on a somewhat regular basis, the car will be happy. But what I'm getting at is the transmission takes about, I believe it's 5.1 quarts. I could be mistaken. I'll check the manual later. But let's say for argument's sake it's 5 quarts. You might only get 3 or 4 quarts out of here. So it's pretty important to measure. That's why everybody says measure what you remove and put in the same amount. Now, you're not going to exactly be going by that, like, oh, I have to get the exact amount and put in the same amount. No, it's just an approximate so that what you're putting in. So, for example, if you take out 3 quarts and you didn't measure it, and you know that the tranny takes 5 quarts, and you go and dump in 5 quarts, you're way overfilling it. So when you go to check it, you're going to pour out 2 quarts that you just wasted. So it's more for not wasting fluid. You're always going to waste a little bit, you know, like quarter quart, half a quart. But the point is, you're not going to severely overfill it. So right now, judging by how full this thing is and the oil changes that I do, this doesn't look like 5 quarts. This might be 3.5 or 4. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take an empty oil jug and pour this in and see how much really came out. For the most part, the fluid looks clean. And there's no metal in here. Not even close. There's no shavings, nothing. So I'm gonna call this a success. And I don't know where to put this now. It's all oily. I'll let this drain. I'm really contemplating on maybe not doing the transfer case right now since the car is not high enough and I gotta crawl really far into the middle of the car. Let's check this guy. So this right here is the drain plug, and this doesn't look great. So the drain plug has this built-in magnet, and this looks like some metallic sludge. Good amount of it too. I guess it's good that it's not floating around in there, but it's also not great that it's on this magnet because it means that it came off of internal components of the transmission. Yeah. All right. Hang tight. Okay, I'm back. While the transmission was draining, I took the liberty in taking apart the intake. So this guy came off, this guy came off. It's all pretty easy. It's just 10mm screws and a couple of these clips. So I used an impact with a 6-inch extension or 8-inch, whatever it is. That all came off pretty easy. It's pretty standard. These guys have little clips that come off with a flathead screwdriver. The point was to be able to get to this guy. So this clamp is going to have to come off to take off this pipe that is for the intercooler. This is the cold pipe, charge pipe. And we want to get to this little plastic guy. This is a breather on the transmission. All it is 2 10mm bolts, and then you take off this plastic housing and you have a clear access point to fill in your transmission with fluid. This guy right here, I need to get a flashlight. Hang on. What did I do with my flashlight? And I lost my flashlight. Man, I really lost my flashlight. Oh. It camouflaged. I'm stupid. All right, so this guy right here that everybody calls the transmission cooler is actually a warmer, like I said. It has 3 12mm bolts. We want to get to that to replace the filter that is in here. And to get those 3 bolts off is not that fun. There's one right here, there's one right here, and then there's a hidden one under there that you do completely blindly. So this little guy on the top, you will need 3-inch extension, a wobble, and a 12mm socket. And for the other two, I used a 6-inch extension and a 12mm socket. I broke them loose. I'm not taking it off yet. I'm kind of trying to multitask. So while the transmission was draining, I got a chance to do all of this, and I got a chance to figure out which washer goes on this little doozy. It's the middle-sized washer, so I took this off. Make sure to throw these guys out so you don't reuse them. I put a new one on, and I have this awesome chart on my phone of all the torque settings and part numbers and everything. This is specifically for our year RDX. This is what they issued to the Acura technicians. I am not an Acura technician, full disclosure. My friend sent me this, but it is a very handy chart for all the standard maintenance. You have your A's and B's 1 through 6. You have all the torque settings. You have part numbers. I will post a longer picture of this later on. Okay, so drain bolt washer, automatic transmission, 49 Newton meters or 36 foot-pounds of torque. So we are setting our torque wrench. You don't have to use this. I just got this, so I want to use it. I got this little AC Delco. I'm not promoting this. I don't care. I don't know if it's good or if it sucks. But let's see. What is happening right now? See, I don't even know how to use it. Anyhow, I'm going to figure out how to set this to 36 foot-pounds, and we will put in our new drain bolt and tighten it down. Okay, I hand tighten this guy down, and let's see if I can prop this up. By the way, you don't need a socket. This is a 3/8 inch square that goes right here. Hope it's still aiming correctly. That's it. 36.2 foot-pounds. And now we can do other work. So yeah, my next thing to do was to take this plastic off while that was all draining and stuff, but I got distracted and took the intake off instead. But that's okay, because while it was draining, the pan would have been in my way to be able to take this off. So now I can kind of get this pan full of oil out of my way and get ready to transfer it into a jug and see how much fluid we took out. So let me turn off the camera while I take this off, because I don't think it's necessary. But you will need a screwdriver or a clip remover. These clips will probably likely break. Maybe they won't if you get lucky, but they suck. And these are 10mm bolts. So get ready for some fun. Let's see. I will be using one of these guys, clip remover. These are good to have. And 10mm socket, but without all the extension and stuff. And I'll get back to the video when I take this guy off and take this guy off. And we're ready to... Actually, no. Before we fill the fluid, we're going to want to take the warmer off and change the filter while the transmission is empty. That way it's not, you know, pouring back out on you. So when I get this guy off, I will resume the footage. All right, check this out, guys. I got the warmer off. Now, in the very few videos that are already online, they all tell you to... prop up my light. They all tell you to take off the two hoses. This guy, oh man, this lighting is horrible. They all tell you to take off the two hoses that are attached to the heater. This hose right here. Where is it? And this hose right here. Those are coolant hoses. If you take them off, you're gonna have a mess of coolant, not just transmission fluid, but coolant. And then you're also gonna likely introduce some air into your cooling system, which may or may not be a fun time later. So I'm attempting to do this without taking off those lines, and I did. As you can see, I took off the warmer, and you could pull it back just enough to get to the filter. It's gonna be a little annoying working that way, but there's room to wiggle this guy out of the way. It's really hard to film with bad lighting. I'm sorry in advance. Also, looking at the screen on this tiny little GoPro, I'm not sure if I'm capturing good footage or not, so I'm really sorry in advance. But I'm trying my best here. So anyway, this transmission warmer is now dangling off this coolant hose and this coolant hose. And the goal is to get in here and take that little filter out and replace it. Now, on the back side of this heater are two O-rings. That's going to be the funnest part, to replace them. I tried to flip this over and see the condition of them. They might not even need to be replaced. I'm definitely replacing the O-ring that's on the filter, 100%. But it's all about a good way to move this guy out of the way and prop it up so that I can get to the filter. So let me try to do that. I really wish I can get better lighting in here. I just don't know how, because every little piece of engine casts a shadow, and I can only put I need one hand for a flashlight, I need one hand for a camera. I don't know how people do this kind of stuff. I guess they have friends, and I don't. I gotta do it all by myself. All right, so I prop my light on there, and then let's see. Let me see if I can flip this guy over a little bit. Maybe I just need 3 hands. All right, I can't flip it over with one hand. I don't want to damage any components. Also, when I took that off, good thing I had some cardboard here because more transmission fluid came out. So I quickly got a little pan and moved the cardboard, and I caught the rest of it. So just expect there to be a little more transmission fluid that comes out of that guy. And it pretty much stopped dripping, so now I'm going to try to change the filter. You guys. Oh, bro. Yeah, let's not change these filters. Come on. Guys, the dealerships are trying to make these cars break. Look at this. How can you tell me that they're telling you not to change these filters? This is new. This is what was in there. All I needed to pull it out was this little pick. So what I did was, it goes in the transmission this way. So I got the pick and I just kind of jammed it in here and then a little bit in here and popped it out. Comes out super easy. I've seen videos where one guy was changing it and he said the orientation is supposed to be somewhere. So see how, oh yeah, I was able to flip this guy over so you could see the O-rings. This is where the filter sits. See how there's 2 nubs? In the video that somebody else posted, there are 2 dimples on these. So the orientation actually matters where it goes. I think they changed that. Maybe his car was a 19 or a 20. Mine is a 22. So now there's really, these are just 2 marks. They're not dimples. So if your filter is a little bit this way, a little bit this way, I don't think it matters the way you put it in. But for the other guy's car in the other video, he has like a 3-part video, I think, with a blue car. That orientation, when you put this filter in, was very important, because if it was slightly rotated, the warmer would not align with the filter. So maybe this is a change that they made in 22 for these guys. I don't know. I don't know, but I'm happy to see that these filters have no dimples. These are just markings. Anyhow, I'm going to put this all back together. Don't forget to make sure that this O-ring came out when you pull the filter out, because if it's still stuck in there, you're going to have a problem. And make sure to put the new O-ring onto your filter, and before you just jam it in there, take some old transmission fluid from what you drained or whatever and lube it up, because you want this to slide in nice and easy. So take the whole thing off, lube it up, put it on there, and pop it back in. And now I'm basically going to use the same little pick to pull these guys out, since I propped it up and I'm holding it against my downpipe. So there you go. Easy peasy. These O-rings look completely fine, to be honest. I'm sure I can reuse them, but everything is out. I got the new ones, so why not just put them in, right? Better safe than sorry. This one's kind of jammed in there. Probably mess it up while pulling it out with the pick, but it's okay. It's okay. And don't forget to put all these guys somewhere separate so you don't get your garbage confused with the good stuff. I got all these rags handy to constantly wipe my hands, because I don't want to get my camera dirty. I don't want to get the car dirty. I don't want to get my tools dirty. And when I say dirty, I mean transmission fluid. That stuff is nasty, and it will eat through paint. And if you think transmission fluid's nasty, wait till you get coolant on your hands, which is why I didn't disconnect those coolant lines. I'll have more fun when I'm replacing the bigger turbo, because I think I'm definitely going to have to break the coolant lines. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So let me work on popping these guys in, and BRB. Check it out. All right, so I emptied this guy into an old oil jug, right? You get a little funnel, get some cardboard so you don't make a mess, because anytime you're doing fluids, you will make a mess. So it doesn't hurt to have extra cardboard laying around if you have somewhat of a nice garage. Anyhow, this is exactly at 5 quarts. Very surprised. Everybody says, oh, sometimes 3 comes out, sometimes 4 comes out, like I said before, but no, just about 5 quarts came out. So we're going to put 5 quarts in, right? And also, I took the liberty of taking the intercooler pipe off. So I just took this end off, I moved it over, and then this little guy right here, I took that off. 2 10mm bolts. That is a breather. I'm not sure what's in this plastic thing. It just covers the breather. Maybe there's some kind of valve or a sensor in there, I don't know. But you have this perfectly open access point to pour in your transmission fluid instead of going in under there from under the car. To be honest, I am going to try to fill it in here and check the level from up here, because I can kind of get, if I go in there, I lost my flashlight. No, I dropped my flashlight. If I go in from here, I can kind of see, let's see if I can get it here. I can kind of see from up here the drain plug and the fill plug, which is the big one, and then right next to it where that sticker is that says ATF, there's a little bolt there. That's the check level plug. Instead of taking all that plastic off underneath the car, like I said I was gonna do, all of this stuff, I'm being optimistic now because this is going fairly well, and I'm gonna try to check the level from up here, because all you need to do is crack that level bolt. It's gonna be really hard to film this. All you have to do is crack the level bolt and watch for a steady drip. However, after filling it, you have to let the car run for a while until it reaches operating temperature. So we're going to open up that garage, let the car run after filling the fluid. I'm going to dump 5 of those quarts in. Close everything back up. Actually, nope, I'm dumb. Forget everything I said, because if I do that, that means I'm going to have to reassemble all of this intake nonsense and then take it apart again just to access that level bolt from up here. Dang it. All right, let me fill this up and I'll think while I'm doing it to see what the best way to do it is. BRB. So I made a little assembly line. These say shake well before using, so I shook the crap out of all of them. I put 5 to the side, because sometimes when you have a bunch and you just start filling them, you're like, uh-oh, how many did I fill up? So set the amount that you need to the side. This should go without saying, LOL. I shook the crap out of them. I opened them all and I started dumping them in. So if you find just the right, just the right size funnel, look at how perfectly it fits into that area. It's like it's meant to be in there. I know you guys like action shots, so I'll give you some pouring action since I gave you some draining action, because I've had people be like, oh, you make all these videos and all you do is talk, you don't show the actual stuff. So here you go, actual stuff. And there's just enough room in here when you take the intake out to hold your bottle. And remember, here's a little trick. Don't pour it this way with this part on top. Pour it with this part on the bottom. That way air travels a little better. And it doesn't go glug, glug, glug. And when you're filling it up, go slowly, because if you fill up the funnel too much, there you go, it starts bubbling and then the bubbles splash back. So fill it up slowly right into the hole instead of just dumping it into the funnel, because when you dump it into the funnel fills up and there's nowhere for air to escape, and then it gets a big bubble and like that. And sometimes if it's a big enough bubble, it'll splash fluid all over your engine bay, and you don't want that either. So take your time, it's not a race. Pour slowly, and then when it's done pouring, you can just leave the bottle standing there like that to get every last drop out if you're worried about wasting fluid. Give it a little shake, and remember the rule: if you shake more than 3 times, you're jerking it. Garbage. All right, I'm gonna dump in the other 3 bottles. Be right back. Yeah, so I decided I'm gonna put this all back together. I filled up the fluid, right? I'm gonna put all the intake stuff back together, and I laid under the car for a while, and I realized that I could get to the check bolt without removing all that plastic. It's going to be a little weird, but I could get to it. I can do it, and I'll show you the tools that I will use. It shouldn't be that crazy. However, what I did realize, you guys are going to laugh at this. Of all the crush washers I have, I do not have the ones for the check bolt to check the level, because they are tiny. So you see all these guys, this is like medium, big, medium, large, whatever. These guys, so just as a reference, here's the oil drain, and here's the transmission and differential ones. This is the transmission check level. I didn't have any of these, and I have thousands of everything else. So I went to the Honda dealership up the block, and I bought 2 of them. $13. This, $13. This is where they make their money. This is, I mean, an aluminum washer must cost fractions of a penny to produce, and they're selling them at $6 a pop. This is bananas. Anyhow, when you guys get your washers, order them online, try to get some discounts or whatever. I was just in a jam. There's no way I'm gonna do this without replacing a crush washer, just because it's not worth getting a potential leak. So make sure you guys have all the crush washers before starting jobs, or else you might be in a jam and have to reuse an old one and play it risky. Anyhow, 13 bucks for these two little guys. I figure I'll get a second one as a spare. So that means all of these probably cost a small fortune. This is like, what, $5,000? Oh wait, look, there's more. Anyhow, let me put this thing back together and run the car, get it back up to temperature. I'm gonna open the garage, get the car back to operating temperature. When you do that, you have to shift through all the gears. If you've seen any of these other transmission videos, they'll tell you, you know, get the car up to temperature, put it in park, drive, reverse, neutral, yada yada, put it in sequential, shift through a couple of you know, gears, first gear, second gear, third gear, just to get the transmission fluid flowing through all the little nooks and crannies of the transmission. So we're going to do that. I haven't touched the transfer case yet, and it'll be good to have the car back at operating temperature, because then I can drain the transfer case. I'm always looking at the motor. I'll let you guys look at me. Yeah, so it'll be good to have the car back at operating temperature to drain the transfer case at operating temperature. But before I do that, I'm going to make sure, with the limited space I have, and I advise you guys do this too, make sure you can reach the fill plug first before opening the drain plug. Make sure you can reach it and make sure you can crack it open. And that applies for anything with gear oil, your transmission fluid, your rear differential, your transfer case. You should always open the fill plug first, because like every good mechanic knows, if you crack open the drain plug and drain all the fluid, and for some reason you can't open the fill plug, you can't fill it, and then you're in a predicament. So always make sure when doing transmission work to crack open the fill plug first and then move on to the drain plug. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to wrap up the transmission fluid here, make sure it's all good, and then I'm going to try to access with this stupid little ramps. I'll see if I can reach and crack open the fill plug. If I could, then I'll go ahead and drain the transfer case and fill the fluid. This is what it looks like, this little pump. So this screws right onto the bottle. You have to do literally nothing. And from under the car, you put the little tube into the fill port and pump away. Fluid goes in. Once it starts dripping back out, piece of cake. Alright guys, I have the engine bay all buttoned up. I'm about to start the car, warm it up, run it through all the modes, drive, park, neutral, reverse, all that stuff. I also figured out the combination of tools to get the check level for the transmission. So this is a flex head 12-inch ratchet with a 12mm socket. You can reach this without removing all that plastic on the bottom. You can reach the check level. For the transfer case, while I was down there, I also cracked open the fill bolt, which is the hardest one to get in, which is annoying, and I put two extensions together. These are 3/4 extensions. This totals 16 inches. I didn't have one single one, so I used two, and I used the same handle. So 12-inch handle. If you can get a bigger one, it'll help you crack it easier, because I had to use a little bit of elbow grease to crack it open. But that's basically all you need. This tip on this is a little rounded, as you can see. It's not, hang on. It's not your standard square tip like this. You see the difference? This one has a little bit of rounding to it, so it gives you maybe a couple of degrees of play. And this is helpful, because this is the end that I inserted into the transfer case fill end. So if you have extensions that have little rounded edges like that for some play, it helps. Anyhow, I cracked it open. I tightened it back up because I'm not doing the transfer case yet. I'm first going to finish up the transmission fluid. So let's go ahead and open this up. And by now it's probably freezing outside, because I've been taking my sweet ass time to do this. Maybe I'll just open it enough for the exhaust to get out.
that. Now I'm gonna start the car. Gotta walk around because space is so limited here. Alrighty. Okay. Should have taken my dirty gloves off. Hope no funny business happens here. It says the hood is open, but yada yada, whatever. Anyhow, I really wish I had some way of telling me my exact engine coolant temperature so that I can know when the car is heated up. But I guess for now we're just gonna have to go by the radiator fans kicking in twice and by this old trusty thing. When it reaches about less than half, I guess it'll be warm. So anyway, the interwebs say you have to run through your gears, so make sure your foot's on the brake. So we're gonna put it in reverse. All right. Oh god, these sensors are annoying. I'm gonna put it in reverse, let it hang out in reverse for a little while, a couple of seconds. We're gonna put it in neutral, let it hang out in neutral for a little while. I guess the more you do this, the better, because it's just allowing transmission fluid to flow through all the crevices of the transmission. Drive had a little clunk to it when I put it in. I don't like the sound of that. Camera unavailable. I folded my mirrors in. You guys, if you get a chance to get an A-Spec Advance, ooh, all these little features. This is one of my favorite features, the side-by-side camera. Get a little camera button here. Front camera, you can see the front, my Moto Compacto hanging out right in front of me. Anyway, I'm still in drive, so let's put it in sequential. And let's run it through a couple of gears with the paddles. Second gear, give it some time. Oh, it won't even let me put it in third. Huh. Okay. I guess the internet lied to me. Back in first. Back in second. Let's put it back in neutral. Back in reverse. Park. Drive. I'm just doing whatever, by the way, like just pressing buttons, cycling all this stuff. Yeah, I guess you can't put it into different speeds when it's in neutral. Duh. Let's try this again. Nope, can't do it unless you're driving, I guess. And I don't think we're going to be driving. Okay, anyhow, I'm going to let this car run. It's probably going to be a while for it to warm up since I'm not driving. And I'll start filming again when I do the check level plug. Okay, so car is nice and warmed up now. I am going to get the check level plug open, and along with that, I'm going to crack open the transfer case. Ooh, my shoelace is untied. Hold please while I tie my shoelace. Not that it matters, because I'm sitting on the floor anyway. Also, it's kind of fun tying your shoelaces with latex gloves on. Anyhow, all right, let's get in here. Let's get in here. So basically,
what you're looking for, right? Here's your pipe. What you're looking for is this little dimple guy where it looks like a finger rest. Right here, you can easily rest your finger on there, and there's some tranny fluid on there that was dripping down from before. Gross. So right above that is a 12 millimeter. Let me get a towel here. Right above that is a 12 millimeter bolt. So unlike the drain bolts and stuff that are just a square socket, right? These guys are just a little 3/8 square. On the transmission, the fill bolt, which we didn't use, and the check level bolt are regular sockets. They're not squares, which is kind of interesting, I thought. So, get my light here. With this tool that I said I used, you're going to want to, if you rest it right on that little groove and go up, the very first bolt right there is your check level bolt. So when you crack that open, what you're looking for is just a slow drip. Whoop, almost dropped it. This is really hard to do while holding the camera. How do people do these videos with all this intricate work? Do they strap the camera to their head? All right, you know what? Maybe if I put the camera on my light. Yeah, oh, I got two hands. That was very easy to open. Barely any force because that's such a small bolt. So, I'll crack that open. Try to get this further in here. Also, just in case you overfill, it doesn't hurt to have a drain pan on the bottom, so if it pours out, it doesn't go all over your floor. But I don't think we did. I think we did just the right amount of fluid. Really hard to get your hand in here, but then again, it's better than taking off all this crazy plastic, because that would have been a whole job of its own with a bunch of broken clips. So I took that out, and there is nothing coming out. And that's not good. That is not good, my friends. That means we did not put enough fluid in. It's supposed to have a steady drip coming out. So now that we've taken apart, we put back together the intake, accessing that hole is not going to be as easy as it was before. So maybe we can go up here to the fill bolt and top it off from there. And with the check bolt open, we can wait for it to drip maybe? I don't know. What to do? I thought I put in a good amount of fluid, but you know. Let me see if I can get, I believe that's a 17 millimeter. Let me get my camera in here. See the open bolt, and then if you go right on top of it, that bolt with the little black line on it, that's the fill bolt. So if you take that off, you can fill fluid through there. All right, let me try that. But before I do that, let me, while the engine is nice and hot, go and crack open, which I already did, kind of. Let me go and crack open the transfer case drain. That's gonna pour all over the exhaust pipe. Why do they make these things like this? Maybe I just have a really big exhaust pipe. I'm gonna put a towel there. and hope for the best. There we go. That's not so bad at all. It's not so bad at all. That stinks. Ooh, that's some bad smelling shit. I'm going to pull that out because it's not touching the exhaust pipe. That stuff stinks. Holy moly. Ah, it's going to touch the exhaust. It's going to touch the exhaust. Is it going to touch it? Ah, it touched the exhaust. All right, we'll just have to wipe that down. It's making me want to pee. That doesn't look like much fluid at all, but it does look pretty brown. And I just realized that I forgot to run it through a paint strainer to see if there's any shavings in there. As you can see, there was no magnet on the drain bolt that came out. I like the transmission drain bolt. Had a nice big magnet on it. But that's okay. Maybe when I transfer the fluid from this drain into another jug, I can run it through a strainer then. I'm more concerned about how I'm going to fill up this tranny fluid a little more. And then even more concerned about how I'm going to deal with the body pain that I'm going to get from filling up the transfer case in the really awkward area. All right, let me let this drip. All right, I put the drain bolt back in with a new washer, and this one for the transfer case is 32 foot-pounds. There you go. And that is good to go. So now all I have to do is fill the transfer case, and it'll be level when it starts pouring out of the fill hole, and that's all the way back there. But first, let's figure out this situation with topping off the transmission a little bit more. Yeah, I lied. I'm going to fill the transfer case first and then deal with the transmission. And the reason is because I got excited with my little pump over here, and I shoved it into a whatchamacallit, case of transfer fluid. So the inner works of this pump is contaminated with this fluid, so I'm going to do that first. So I emptied out the jug into a pint through the strainer. I don't see any metal particles in the strainer, and it looks like the transfer case let out about 20 ounces of fluid. And fortunately, these transfer case fluid bottles are also marked, so we could be looking to keep pumping about 20 ounces of fluid before it starts leaking back out. I don't think I will be able to film that part just because of how deep underneath the car it is and how tight the spaces are, and you know, the light and the camera and everything. It's extremely awkward to fit your body under there and do that work. So I'm gonna do that first, and I'm sorry, I don't even know how to begin to film it. If it was on a lift with a second person, then maybe, but for now, let me do that, and then I'll throw some more fluid into the transmission. Hey guys, all right, I am defeated, but I made some discoveries and managed to get some things done. Not the end of the world. About the transmission fluid not dripping back out. I took out 5 quarts, I put 5 quarts back in, it wasn't dripping. I made a mistake. So you're supposed to run the car after filling it up, right? I made the genius decision of running the car while it's on ramps, and
I had a good think about this, and then I spoke to a couple of friends of mine, and they said, no, you're supposed to drive the car, because if the wheels aren't spinning, the transmission's not moving internally and whatnot. So there's a good chance that the level is actually good. So I have to drive the car, which sucks because then I'm going to have to put it back into the same position on the jack stands in this little garage. So I have a good feeling that the transmission fluid is fine. Now the transfer case, oh my God, that is not a fun job. That is not a fun job at all. And I don't know what these other guys are talking about online with this this pump right here being all great. So what ends up happening is when you stick this straw into the fill hole, I gave it literally 2 pumps and it started pouring fluid back out. So inside of that hole, I ended up sticking my finger in. Yeah, go ahead, laugh, I'll wait. I stuck my finger in a hole and I felt around, and it just felt like a dead end hole. If you feel carefully, I ended up taking a little probing stick. I used a pick carefully, an angled pick. I'll show you what I used. This little guy, and I gently put it into the hole, and I felt around, because you only go about this deep into the fill hole, and then you basically hit a wall. So that straw from the pump was just hitting the wall. I pumped a couple of pumps of fluid in, and it was just coming back out. So I realized that inside of that hole there's another tiny little hole, which is kind of hard to find. You have to basically shove the hose in and then go downward and to the passenger side, and then the hose goes all the way into the transfer case. However, this hose that this pump comes with is too big to get into that hole. I was struggling and making a mess, and I still got fluid here. It was not a fun time. So I started looking for other methods, and I realized I have this extractor and filling pump, which came with this hose that's slightly smaller than this one, and then this hose. Now what you can do with this pump is it comes with this little adapter, and you can take this hose and combine them. I took the original hose from this pump and I used the adapter and used this little hose. You can see that it's thinner and it's chewed up a little bit on the tip. I was able to get that into the deep end of the fill hole, and ultimately was able to get the pump to work. I did one fill with this. This is about, I don't know, 2 ounces maybe, or I don't know what, 8 ounces. I don't know what this was, but I would have had to do like 4 of these things, and this was making a big mess. So I said, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to use this pump with this adapter, and it ended up working. So transfer case, problem solved. But that took me a lot of messing around, a lot of making a mess. The gear oil is like, or what's this stuff called? Yeah, gear oil. It's real messy stuff. It's super slippery. It gets everywhere. It's really thin. I mean, it's been a few hours. I literally had to take a break. I went inside. I got a snack. I walked the dog. I fed the dog, and I came back to it, and I was able to, finish that up. So the transfer case is done. Now I have to get the car off the jack stands and the ramps, take it for a drive, and then put it back on the ramps and the jack stands and check the level on the transmission case. I'm shot on the transmission fluid. So other than that, it's pretty much done. So I'm going to take this thing for a ride, and goodbye.
And we're back after taking a little drive. Let's try to open this guy up again. Also, I checked to see that there's no drippage or leaks anywhere. Here, all the bolts that we took off for draining and filling, there's no leaks. So back to this check level bolt. Hopefully something drips out. If not, I will have to add a little bit more tranny fluid. Looks like there's a tiny bit, but it's not really dripping, so I think I'm gonna have to add some fluid. Okay, that sucks. Alrighty, back at it. 12 millimeter, 17 millimeter. I took off the fill bolt. So previously when we filled the transmission from the top, that was like a little hack. This is the regular way to fill it. Fill bolt is a 17. It has a little black mark on it. I'm sure all cars have them. I already filled it up, so I attached the same pump. You see the pink fluid. I put a couple of more squirts in there because this, I looked up at the manual, and apparently the transmission takes 5.1 quarts. So I gave it a little bit, and I didn't put the fill bolt back in. I took the pump and I shot it right into right there. You can't really see it, but let me see. Can you see the hole from here? Yeah, the hole that I opened up. So anyway, now I'm going to crack open the check level thing again and see if anything drips out. So, see if anything drips out. If we get a steady drip, then we're good to go. Still nothing, you motherfucker. I don't get it. I don't get it. Excuse my language. So I started pumping until fluid was coming back out of the fill hole. I'm not really sure what the point of this check level hole is if nothing comes back out of there, but I'll give it a couple of more squirts into the fill hole for good measure, and then we'll call it a day, because it's definitely 5.1 in there, if not more. So I'm assuming it should be coming back out of the check level hole by now. Okay, that did it. So I left the check level open, and I did a couple of more squirts into the fill hole, and it started coming out of the check level. So that's what we wanted. These things have pretty accurate tolerances. So I'm going to button this back up. 32 foot-pounds on the fill bolt and 20 foot-pounds on the check bolt. So this is impossible to do from this angle with my left hand. Can't even see where I'm going. Oh, so there's a little window right here where you would drain your radiator from. You can kind of see from here. So I'm looking through this little window, and it's just perfect to put the fill bolt back into place. There we go. I don't know if you could see that. Can't see anything in this little GoPro screen. I don't know what's worse, a GoPro or an iPhone. So I tightened that up by hand. Tightened up the check bolt by hand. And now I will use my trusty torque wrench, which I'm not going to film, so it doesn't really matter, but I figure you should do that. 12 millimeters and 17, and that's a wrap.
Alrighty, that wraps up our transmission fluid service. And I got to thinking, and since this was my first time doing this maintenance, there probably could have been a better, more streamlined order of operations. So I took the time and I wrote down a list of how I would do it the next time, just to be a little more efficient and time productive. I'm going to copy paste it in the description, but I'll also read off my list right now. So first you're going to drive the car, get its operating temperature. After that, we're going to jack up the car, whether you're using 4 jack stands or ramps or whatever it is. Jack up the car, keep it running to keep it hot. Make sure the car is level when it's jacked up. Then start with the transfer case. Break open the fill bolt. Make sure you can crack it open, but don't remove it. Leave the bolt in. Again, with the transfer case, open the drain bolt, drain the fluid. Make sure it's fully drained. Replace your crush washer. Tighten the bolt back down. I listed the torque specs in my list of stuff, so don't worry. Move on to the transmission. Open the drain bolt, drain the fluid, replace the crush washer, tighten and torque it back down, measure your fluid that you removed. Then you're going to want to do the rest of the stuff. Since you drained the 2 fluids while the car is hot, you're good to go. You can now take a little break, let the car cool down if you want, because you don't need to do the rest of the work with the car hot. So if you don't want to burn yourself, you can let the car cool down if you wish. Anyhow, you're going to go ahead and remove the air intake. You're going to remove the transmission warmer assembly to get to that little filter. So you're going to replace the filter, replace the O-rings, and I'm going to also list those part numbers for the filter and O-rings, even though they're already in the video. Then you will remove the little plastic breather on top of the transmission to access that fill hole, and that's where you will fill in your transmission fluid. The car takes about 5.1 quarts. That is for an all-wheel drive. Front-wheel drive takes 4.5 quarts. And for some reason, the 2025 models only take 3.9 quarts. I guess they must have redesigned the transmission in some sort of way. Anyhow, you're going to fill that up. And you can reassemble the intake. Then you're going to move on to the transfer case. Remove your fill bolt until the fluid starts. Wait, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. Remove the fill bolt and fill it until the fluid starts coming back out. That's how you know the transfer case is full. It'll take about a little more. The thing says 6.1 quarts the transfer case takes. I measured about that much when I took it out. So anyway, fill it back up until it starts coming back out. That's how you know it's full. When it starts dripping steadily, put your bolt back in with a new crush washer, torque it down. Now all of your fluids are changed. You're going to want to run the car, drive it around. Don't make the mistake I did by just keeping it running. I had my foot on the brake. I was on ramps, and it didn't work out too well. I put it in park, reverse, neutral, drive, all of that. And then I realized that I should probably drive it around, because when I opened up the check level on the transmission, nothing was coming out, and I know I put in a decent amount of fluid. Anyhow, I drove the car around. I took it on the highway. I went through all the gears in the sequential mode. I used the paddle shifters. I drove it around for like 10-15 minutes. Brought the car back home. I ended up putting a little bit more fluid in. It ended up being about 5.1 quarts, just like the manual says. Retorqued the bolts, and that's it. The car was done. So yeah, essentially it's an easy maintenance job, but if you've never done it before, make sure you allocate the time to take your time and do it carefully and not mess things up. Make sure you have all the parts you need, all the fluids you need, all the tools you need. I made sure in the video to go over the tools, so I hope that's helpful. And
take this camera. I'll show you this. This is the maintenance chart that Acura gives their technicians. Sorry, I know this lens is fisheye because it's a GoPro, but this has every bit of information you need for any maintenance you need to ever do to this car. I will put a regular copy of, not a fisheye version of this chart in the video when I edit it. So I hope that was helpful. And I will see you guys on the next video, whatever I should be doing. It's probably going to be, what do I have coming up? I'm going to be doing eyebox springs. There's already a couple of videos on that. I don't know if it's necessary for me to make one. I'll probably make it anyway. I'm going to do another video on a bigger intercooler because I'm doing an MHI Stage 2 turbo. So I will definitely be doing a video on that. And stay tuned, like, subscribe, follow, whatever all the YouTube guys say. And I'll see you next time. Okay, bye.